hello, intrepid minds, young and old alike, and welcome back to Contraption Maker. Alrighty, so, this is a presentation of the weekly puzzle number 3, Homeward Bound. The challenge, get one Toolman team home safely. Challenge, complete the puzzle using just 3 parts. Last week we presented the challenge itself, namely, well, just this puzzle and how we've got 3 Toolman teams to work with. Obvious obstruction to getting home for this guy, and these guys trapped in a brick cage, not to mention a freaking zombie walking around. The special challenge, of course, was... whoops. Go ahead and... Actually, maybe turn the volume up just a little bit. Whatever. For some reason the music isn't playing. Maybe there isn't any music for this level, I don't know. The special challenge is to do it with just 3 parts. Let's start off with the quote-unquote correct or normal or standard solution. The trick to this puzzle is actually the hardest part of this puzzle is figuring out where to start. Because what you have here is, my usual method is, of course, find motion and see what moving objects you can work with. But we've got a falling stick of dynamite, a falling block, which activates a fan, which blows off a cannonball, and a moving zombie. I mean, that's a lot of motion to contend with all at once. The trick to this puzzle is recognizing that this side is actually not helping your case any. What you've got is 2 buckets that are blocking the way home, and while the cannonball is nice enough to clear them away when it's turned on, well, we don't even have to let the cannonball land at all. We can just, pin these buckets up, let them catch the cannonball. Oh, but it's still going to block that way. In fact, it blocks worse because it's a cannonball in a bucket. So now the ideal scenario would be to prevent this stick from ever hitting this switch. And that's where the recognition that you can tie ropes to these comes in handy. I could theoretically, put some kind of physical obstruction here to try and prevent it from landing on the switch. But apart from being very difficult to position just right, that also doesn't provide me a whole lot of motion to work with. And it doesn't even begin to get to the real question of, if we're going to get through this obstruction or somehow lift the Tim over it, how are we even going to begin to do it? Instead, we attach a rope to the stick at just the right angle, and then attach it to the dynamite. We're going to create a pendulum-like effect that's going to hang the dynamite and the stick right over the candle. Watch. A delayed reaction, lighting of the candle, and exploding of the dynamite. And let's just check to make sure that it would work from either angle, or would I get a better effect if I went the other angle. Note that we have a starting gerbil cage in this first example. Ooh, beautiful. Unfortunately, this lands the candle upside down. I much prefer the candle right side up, because now the puzzle becomes very obvious. With a candle on a conveyor belt, starting the conveyor belt will roll it past this way, and maybe put it in range of a fuse eventually to light a dynamite to blow the rocks to let Tim through? Question mark? Maybe? Probably? That flame will almost certainly penetrate through the floor. So now the real question is, how do we get this gerbil cage running? Obvious answer is obvious. Anything hitting it should do the trick. Oh man, why did it come upside down? Oh, I didn't tie this off on the correct side. Obvious answer is obvious. I need to get the gerbil cage moving, or get the motor going. Ah, if I got the motor going, that would potentially pull it all in the right direction. To get the motor going, I'm going to need to plug it in. I only have one kind of outlet, so that's easy. And let's make sure it lines up with this laser. Oh, I can't do alignments. Okay, it's mid-line roughly, so roughly about there. How do I get this laser going? It's got a plug. There's only one way to activate the plug, and that's going to be another laser switch. How am I going to get this laser switch going? These are the only lasers I could potentially get live if I could activate that switch. So to get these lasers going, let's go with a bouncy mirror. So now they're gonna bounce, 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 bounce. Or actually, you know what? If I could just get them to pull into one of these and bounce directly, that actually might even be easier. I don't know, we'll see if something like that works. I have to fiddle with that. So that leaves me with trying to get this whole thing in motion. Getting the switch to go is gonna require me to cut this rope, maybe? Or to put more weight in this bucket than this bucket. This bucket has a zombie Tim in it, so I'm gonna need to put more Tims in this bucket. To do that, we'll just wait for this zombie to drop, or I can release these Tims somehow. And there's only one obvious tool I have in my arsenal now, and that's this, so we'll see what happens. Boom. It's still running upside down. What the hell? I could have sworn I tied it off right. Okay, there we go. Better. Better. Whoa! Those Tims died. And of course are eaten by the zombie and reanimated, because zombies don't require, it doesn't matter if they were dead, they're living undead now. So that's going to allow these Tims to eventually make their way to the bucket. Okay. And sure enough, just one did the trick. Nope, never mind. One didn't quite beat the other enough. We're going to need a little bit more energy. And that's where the other two come in. Which flips the switch, which activates the conveyor. And you'll notice the rope is too short to allow the passage of the bucket all the way down without cutting it somehow. And that's enough. We get Tim home. And that's the solution. Now, how the crap am I gonna do this with just 3 parts? And I will freely admit that just 3 is actually this is like the hardest challenge I've come up with so far. So let's begin with reductionism. What is the real goal of this puzzle? The real goal of this puzzle is to get Tim home. All this other stuff is superfluous. Doesn't matter how we do it. To do that, I need to either shoot Tim over that wall somehow, knocking him over it, or blow the wall up so he can walk. Naturally, the second one is going to be simplest. To blow it up, I need lit dynamite. There are 2 sources of dynamite that could work. Because let's be honest, this is planted, it's never coming that far. There is also only one source of lighting for dynamite. You'll look through the rest of my toolkit, I have nothing. So I need to somehow light this dynamite, or this dynamite, and get it here. That's it. If I do that, the puzzle will be solved. Basically. So, why not just straight up light the dynamite? What's wrong with this? Oh, right. I have like maybe a second on the fuse, and it's not going in the right direction. What might I do to volt this dynamite in this direction so it lands here? And there, as the bard would say, lies the rub. If I do this and use a rope to connect it to something that will give it a sort of swing motion, boom! I got one. If I do that, if I aim it a little bit better, and this is admittedly a pixel hunt, nope. I'm gonna need to get a little bit less upward motion. A little bit better. Oh, and what just happened to Tim? He just took a pounding, huh? Well, let's see if it happens if I tilt it a little bit this way. The other notable issue is this bucket totally still going to obstruct the way. I'm going to need to figure out an answer to that later, but for the moment, let's focus on one problem at a time. Actually, would this bucket work better, maybe? No, I doubt it. The angle just won't work out. And I'm not just talking at random. Like, I'm showing you guys how I figured this out, as well as, I don't have the solution memorized or anything. I'm just winging it as I go. Oh, come on. That's even worse. Okay, let's go closer and see. Maybe. Adjust it. Boom! We got it! Whoa! But that bucket straight up, Tim is not strong enough to push it. So we need to prevent this bucket from ever reaching the ground. And to do that, we'll tie the bucket to anything that would stay planted. This would stay planted, so that would prevent it from getting far enough. We'll use a pulley system to make sure that it stays high enough to not obstruct the rest of the puzzle. And there you go. 2 ropes and a stick of dynamite. Fucking challenging, but once you see the answer, it's so obvious in retrospect. And admittedly a bit of a pixel hunt. But that's it for Homeward Bound. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next puzzle. Actually, you know what? Why not? Yeah. Stay tuned for the next puzzle. Wherein, if I recall correctly, we're going to be doing a little bit of the old high school egg drop contest. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.